now the question of, well, what deeds are most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this time, and what is the concept of sacrifice, and why why are we asked to sacrifice, in general and specifically during this time? What is the meaning? What is the deeper meaning of the sacrifice of Ibrahim alayhi salam? We've heard this story several times throughout our lives, but when Ibrahim alayhi salam saw the dream in which he was sacrificing his own child, and when he shared this dream with Ismail alayhi salam, and of course the dreams of prophets are revelation. They're not like our dreams, but they're actual commandments from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when he shared this dream with his son, with Ismail alayhi salam, it's important to note the absolute submission of Ibrahim alayhi salam, in his willingness to sacrifice what was most beloved to him. But at the same time, we must also commemorate and understand that Ismail alayhi salam also had a response of complete submission. He said, he replies, if'al ma tu'mar, that do as you have been commanded. Now that's intense. There's the sacrifice of the father, but then there's also the sacrifice of the son, where the son is saying, sacrifice me, right? He is actually submitting to having himself sacrificed. And so that's also important to note when we discuss the concept of sacrifice. Now, how does that then translate to us, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never ask us to, sacrifice our own child in this way. But how does this translate? And what can we learn from this? Well, of course, as we know, Ibrahim alayhi salam did not actually have to sacrifice Ismail, but rather it was a test, and a test at a very deep level, not just to find out what Ibrahim alayhi salam would do, not just to find out what Ismail alayhi salam would do, because Allah already knows what both of them will do, but that these tests, and this is one of the deep meanings of bala, and one of the deep meanings of fitna, tests that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, is that it isn't a test just like a professor gives you a test, right? When a teacher gives you a test, they don't have any idea what you're going to do. They don't have any idea how you're going to perform. They don't have any idea what level or depth of knowledge you have about the subject. And that's why the human teacher gives you a test, so that they can find out what your knowledge level is and what your performance will be. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a test, He already knows how you will perform. He already knows your level. So why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tests? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ask us to sacrifice at all? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need our sacrifice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah tells us, for example, in Surah Al-Hajj, that it is not the meat of the sacrifice or the blood of the sacrifice that reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but rather it's the taqwa. It is the taqwa, our taqwa, that reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this ayah is a very important and deep lesson. And that is that it is not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need our sacrifice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the infinitely rich. He is al-ghani, right? He doesn't need our sadaqah, our sacrifice. He doesn't need our worship. It's us who need it. And that it is through the process of sacrifice that we are elevated. And it is through the process of giving that we become rich. So it's actually enriching ourselves, and it is purifying ourselves through that giving and through that sacrifice. And the test itself actually strengthens us and purifies us and elevates us. And so the test is not just Allah finding out something He didn't know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all knowing. Allah already knows everything. He knows what is in front of us and what is behind us, what is to our right, what is to our left. Allah knows what is hidden and what is evident, right? And so the test itself is actually to elevate me. The sacrifice itself is actually to strengthen and to purify me. Very profound. And so that the word itself for the udhiyah, the sacrifice, is qurbani. Qurbani means to get closer, from qareeb. that through the qurbani and through the sacrifice, we actually become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and become elevated.